everyone, Artie Tambarambaa, known as Tammy Porter, here again today, sharing this gorgeously bright and funky Art by Marlene art journal page. First of all, I will take you through everything I've used. I always list these in the comments. So I've used the Art by Marlene white gesso, the new white gesso. I've used all the paint markers, Art by Marlene markers, because they're amazing. I've also used some of the glue, the sticky glue, and then I've used Happy, Funky, Ballet, and Punk, and Fuchsia, Ho Ho Ho, Smurf, Azure, and Mermaid as my paint colours, lovely and bright. Couple of favourite neons in there just to pop it at the end. And then I've got the new circle stamp and that blossomy flower new stamp. I'm using my large Art by Marlene Creative White Journal, and also a couple of older stencils. So really one's a mandala-y shape. You could use mandala, you could use floral. I've also got a geometric in there, lots of geometrics in the advent calendar, but any sort of geometric is fine, but that just happens to be one of my favourites. So I start just on a double page spread, and I haven't used gesso. I am mixing a little bit of gesso every now and then with my paints, just because I like the way it blends them onto the page. But as I'm going to cover this totally in acrylic paint, it's not necessary to put that background down first, I find. So a lot of people ask me that because these are a little bit of a different journal, it's a bit glossier on one side, but yeah, I haven't had any problems if I am playing with paint, which is generally what I do. Okay, so I started with some Mermaid and put that in 3 areas across the page, and I'm just using a dry brush, and that's when I did mix a little bit of gesso in. And then I just came in with some Ballet and also some Happy, which is yellow, which are my go-to colours. I think I've also in the Mermaid added a little bit of Azure, and that's where you get that little bit of change of depth of colour in there. Then I came in with some white gesso, and I just popped it down again in 3 areas, and then put down my mandala stencil and pulled it off using a damp baby wipe through the stencil, so it left that lovely white contrast stencil. And I made sure that stencil was hanging off of the edges, so the page continued out. Otherwise it can look a bit too bordered and a bit too structured. Okay, so then I came in with a little bit of Smurf. Smurf's one of my favourite colours, and I did add a little bit into this parts of each mandala, and then lined up that stencil and pulled it off again. And it was just because I had a white and it was kind of a bit flat. So just to give it a bit of interest, I added a touch of colour into it, just to sort of confuse the eye a little bit and make it seem a bit more natural. And then, as always, I had a little bit of paint left, so couldn't help doing a few little mark makings onto the background. And then I had a flip through the latest collage book, and I discovered that lovely confetti kind of dotty sort of paper. So I tore 3 strips again and used it on the outside edges onto the page in 3 different areas. And I really like how that looks, and how a lot of the colours that are in the confetti are actually already in my page. So this is where I kind of had sort of got lost in the process. I guess I created a bit of a background, wasn't thinking too much with what I was doing, but then I've started to really play here. So I began with some of the paint and just used my finger to do a few little circles to copy that confetti. And then I thought, it'd be so much easier if I used the markers. So I grabbed out some Art by Marlene markers, and they're great for just adding this little bit of confetti in. And I'm just sort of bringing it into the page a little bit, just as if the corners are coming in a little bit. Okay, so now I decide it's time to fix some of those joins where I've just whacked the paint down, and you can see those definite lines between the colours. I just want to fix that. So to do that, I'm using some fuchsia paint, and I just pop a little bit down. I think I actually did some Smurf first on top of the Azure and Mermaid and just pulled it up. But then I did the same with Fuchsia, and I kind of did it on where the edges meet. So for example, pink and blue make purple, and so Fuchsia on that join is a perfect way of disguising that join and making it look really natural. So that's kind of what I'm doing, and then I'm bringing sort of that where I've got the pink coming onto the yellow, meeting the yellow. I just extend that just over into that yellow a little bit and pull it up, and you'll just see it just helps disguise those joins and those lines. What I've just done then is I stood back and had a look and thought, oh, I've lost all my yellow and I want to brighten my yellow up a bit. So I came in with a bit more happy and added another bit of layer, and then did some mark making and continued it out as well in a couple of areas, because I just felt my yellow was sort of all in one section. So now I come in with these awesome circle stamps. I really love this set, and this page was actually inspired by the lovely Karin from our Art by Marlene Dream Team. So Karin did some of these stamps, and then she extended them out and sort of created real features with them, and it was a little while ago, and I just loved it, and I thought I've got to have a bit of a play doing that because it was totally my kind of thing. And so I messaged her and said, would you mind? And she's like, oh, no, go for it. And I think that's the thing when you're on a design team and when you're sort of trying to inspire everyone with Marlene's latest creations, it's really lovely when we know that we've inspired you, whether you've kind of replicated our page and put your little flair on it, or whether you have just got an idea from us. We do love knowing that, because that's hopefully what we're doing by creating and doing videos and showing you how to do things, and hopefully it gives you lots and lots of ideas and lots of excuses to go into your arty space and create. So I guess it's the same between us. Sometimes we inspire each other, and it's a really lovely feeling. And so I sent her a message and she was super thrilled. So I hope she gets to watch this video. So this is where I'm starting to extend them out, but I will go back and just explain what I have done. I've stamped them, and of course I thought, oh, they're just going to make gorgeous little blossoms. So I'm kind of stamped them onto my page using archival black ink. And I'm not the most awesomest stamper. I probably should have got out a, stamping block, but a stamping press, whatever they're called. Didn't have time for that. I just like to get it done. And sometimes I then regret that because they don't stamp out perfectly. But the beauty of these stamps in particular is because they're quite bold and they've got strong lines, they're really easy to fill in yourself. So that's what I did in a couple of points. I stamped, didn't stamp perfectly, and I just continued out those lines and patterns of Marlene's using the black markers. And voila, all fixed. You may have noticed that I've done a little bit of overlapping. I just want those flowers to look like they're natural, that some are in front of others. And so I just used a scrap of card to cover up to create that layering effect. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I've continued that, particularly on the right-hand side, that flower there, that was that circular shape, and I just kind of turned it into a blossom by adding some petals, and then I'm just colouring in and adding colour to those flowers just so they're a little bit different to the background, so they pop up a little bit more. And this is super fun. I could do this all day. I'm using the paint pens. I'm mainly drawing some paint pens on, and then I'm using just a wet brush just to blend them through. So you might see me use, like on those petals, I use the lighter pink. So I grab the pink marker, and on one end is a lighter colour and the other end is a darker colour. So I started with the light, and then I used a bit of the darker, and then I just blended the two, and I really love how that looks. So I started doing that on all of the flowers, and you'll notice that I started sort of doing a bit of ombre as well. I really like how with the markers I can put sort of, pink on one side, blue on the other, and then blend with water in between, and it just kind of works. So So they're really fun to play with. So if you've got these markers, have a bit of a play with them with a wet paintbrush. And also, if you haven't got them, you should get them because they are awesome. So what is happening here is you can see that I was actually filming this in the late afternoon. I think I've talked to you many times about how I'm really struggling to get that morning filming done. And so the sun started coming in my window and I didn't realise, and it had really cast a white sort of sheen all over the page. So I've cut that little bit out, but basically all I did, I think you get to see the beginning of it, is all I did was grab that flower stamp and use this sort of lines in it that are stems to create the stems on my flowers. And when I placed them on my block, I did bend them a little bit. So you'll see some are straight, some are bending to the left, some are bending to the right. And I just wanted them to look a bit more natural. So that's really all you missed, was me stamping the rest of those out. And then I'm just adding some detail into the flowers. So I knew I wanted to go black and white on the stems because I've gone very colourful on this page. And as I always tell you, when you go lots of colour, you need to bring in your neutrals, your black and your white, just to pull it all together and actually make it sort of pop and feel right. So because I'm using black and white on the stems, I also needed to have some more white in the flowers, and that's where I'm adding them with little dots and dashes just on the flowers and doing some doodling, and it's lots of fun. So as I said, this part I could go on for ages doing this, so you might just have to bear with me. I keep fiddling. But I also just want to let you know that a couple of people message me every now and then and say, you know, where do I get the markers? Can you put in a link? And I don't put in a link purely because I'm in Australia, but I know there's people all around the world that watch this. And so, you know, support your local store wherever you can. If you want to know where to get something in particular, if you ask me, could you just leave where you're from? I usually end up asking you anyway. So if it's Australia, I'm much all over that. I know the stores quite well that stock up by Marlene, so I'm more than happy to send you the links to that. But if you're somewhere else, just let me know and I'll do my very best to track down who's got them in stock. But yeah, supporting some of your smaller local scrapbook stores is always a good idea, because if we don't, they will, you know, they can't always survive. So let's support them wherever possible. So yeah, don't hesitate to ask, but always just let me know where you're from so I can try and help you better. So now I've just been flipping through the awesome quotes book and just trying to work out a quote. So I end up going with the pink because it's lovely and vibrant, and also that pink has got a little bit of white writing, so that brings that white into the background as well. And there's so many awesome quotes in that quote book, but I chose, if colour was music, my paintings would be doing the polka. And I was thinking how they're lovely, the page is lovely and bright. It's also got the confetti and the sort of polka dot background, so it just worked perfectly. So the other thing I've done here is just add in a black edging, very fine, just with the black ink, just to sort of frame it a little bit. And then I'm just still tissing here, but I will explain that this is probably more accurate to what the light and the colour of the page. So the sun had gone down, so I did remove the shade that I'd had to put up, and so you might have noticed that all of a sudden it lifted, and that's just purely because it's in more natural light. And then I do my little trick and come in with neon paint, and I've used Punk and Funky, which is a pink and a purple in neon, and I just add some little hints here and there, and it just really lifts all those colours. And I can just see the only other thing I might have missed is I used the little stamp from the flower stamp to create little leaves that are coming off of the stems. So there's some cute little heart blossoms in there that are perfect for that. So that's it from me. I'll leave you with close-ups. I'm loving this page. Super fun, super bright. Thanks for the inspiration once again, Karen. And everyone have a great arty day, and I will be back soon. As always, I'd love you to subscribe and let me know what you think.